Okay, welcome here everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to take a real-world TypeScript, advanced TypeScript scenario. I have created an application called Bash Client. Today I want to integrate a filter function to my cookie engine. So if you look at these interfaces here, I have an interface named iCookie, which basically has a key and value pair, as well as some additional attributes. But then I do also have an interface for the headers. So I have key and value there as well, like a content type and stuff like that. And I want to create a filter method, so I can give an regex and filter the output. So I basically send just a few cookies or receive a few cookies, and same with the headers. And I don't want to create two functions, I want to create one single function. And that's today's task. So here I have a couple of examples. I've created an object containing 3 cookies. Let me just change the names of these, so it's C2 and C3. Value doesn't need to be different. And then I have 2 headers here as well. So I want to create a function which is called filter. And this function should take 2 arguments. The first will be the object, and the second will be the regex. And what I want to return is cookies, if we are dealing with cookies. And cookies is basically a type alias for a cookie array, the interface I showed you before. And same with headers then. So how do we do this? I have created a type alias which is named header-like, which takes in cookies or headers. So let's start out there. But I don't want it to return a header-like, I want it to return a cookie or header. So let's start making our function. We can take the in arguments. So the object will be a header-like, so either a cookies or headers. And regex, well, it will be a regex, like this. And as you can see, I like using let. Everyone else seems to enjoy const, but I like let because that makes me do this in 2 steps. I can create the signature first, and then I can create the functions. So let's create the actual function then. And this might not seem like an advanced TypeScript example at first, but it is. You'll see why in a little while. So let me just scroll down a bit. Okay, so we need to do the actual runtime code, but we do also need to make it so that TypeScript knows what type to return. So it's not, so we can't just pass it to the filter method, not right away anyway. The first we need to take care of is to check if object is null or not, or undefined, and we need to check that it's an object and that it's an array, because this only handles arrays. So let's begin there. We will check if object is nullish, or if type of object not equal to object, and then we'll check if array is array obj. Okay, so if any of these are true, then we'll just throw new error like this. Okay, so that's the first step taken care of, and we can let's see, I think we can let's make it so it works for cookies first, and then we will make it more generic. So cookies, and we need to return cookies like this, and it's erroring at the moment. Type void is not assignable to type cookies, and that's because we haven't yet returned anything. So let us do the return. So what we'll do is we'll take object and pass it through the filter method, and then we will have an x, which is a single cookie, and we want to check if the key is matching the regex. So we'll do x dot key, and this might be undefined, and we will match against the regex. Okay, so if this is true, we will keep it in our new filtered array like this, and now we don't have an error anymore, and as you can see, it will return cookies just like we want. Okay, so this is quite easy when we are just doing the cookies, but what about the headers? So let's temporarily remove this part, and let's change from cookies to headers, and headers like this, and the code will be very similar. So return obj, and we will filter, and then we'll get an x, which will be a single header, and we want to check if x.key matches our regex like this, and then there is no error, and we will return the headers. Okay, so far it's quite easy to make this work, but what if we wanted to work on both our headers and our cookies? How we do that? Well, let's start by making this signature more generic. So we will add a T. So what does it say now? T could be instantiated as an arbitrary type which could be unrelated to any. Okay, so it doesn't, we need to constrain T somehow. And this T variable, we know it's going to be either cookies or headers, and we do have a type which is both. So let's do T extends header like array. And if it extends to this, we want to return T, otherwise never. Okay, so what does it say down here now? Cookies is not assignable to type header. Okay, so now we need to enter a little bit of logic into our actual function so that TypeScript can interpret which kind of types this can be. So the first thing we need to check if the actual cookie, for example, is null. And since this is an array, we can check the first member of the array. And then we first need to double check that it has a member. So let's do if obj dot length, if this is equal to 0, meaning it's an empty array we're trying to filter, then we will just we can do like this. We will return an empty array as header like. So that is if it's empty. So the next step, now we can go into the first member of the array. So we can check if the first member of the array, let's do else if. So if the first member is 0, then we too want to return an empty array as header like. Okay. And now we come to the good stuff. We need to somehow create a function which on the type level is checking if it really is a cookie or not. And if it's not, then we want to return it as a header. And if it's a cookie, we want to return it as a cookie. So we can create a special kind of function which will do just like that. So let's call this isCookie. And this is a function which will take in one argument, and that is the object of type header like. And let's wait a little bit about just wait a little bit with the return type, return value even. So is cookie is equal to, and how do you know if it is a cookie or if it's a cookie or a header? We need to find something that differs. Both have the key and value, so we can check for that, but the iCook interface does have an expire, so we can check if it contains an expire property. So let's do that, exactly that. And let's so if expire in obj, if this is true, we want to return that this is a cookie. Easy enough. And we can type this a little bit different. Let's do it like this. If obj dot expire not equal to undefined. And since this is only available on the cookie, we would need to do like obj as cookie expire. So if it has an expire field, if it's not equal to undefined, then we will return true. And now we will come to this interesting return value. We will return obj is cookie. Signature object like Boolean must be a type predicate. Maybe it doesn't like the parentheses here. Okay, let's see. So obj header like return obj is cookie equals obj and obj is cookie. Obj is cookie. There we go. Okay, so this is the function. So it does check if this is a cookie, and then it returns that this is a cookie. So now we may call else if obj 0, let's add another else if. So else if is cookie, and we send in the first member of the array. So if it is a cookie, then we take this code and we want to return it think it's good. Okay, so this should work, I think. We do still get a warning here, but this is not correct because it's complaining about that we can send in an arbitrary type as object, but it's not true because then it will return never, and it won't work. If any one of you have any clue how to get past that error, then please put a comment down below. So how do we use this function? Well, we do have two variables. So we have cookies and we have headers. So let's see if we want to filter the cookies. So we get the C2 one. Let's start with creating a regex. And I'll make it quite easy. So regex equals new regex. And we want to check for so the beginning of the string C to the end of string. And then we put in those. Like this. So this is our regex. And now we will just do let output, which will be a cookies array, and output will be equal to filter, and we want to filter cookies, and we'll send in our cookies object and our regex like this. We should have the cannot find cookie. I need to import singular cookie. No, here it is. Type cookie. Output equals filter cookie. Cannot find. Oh, it's 3 O's. Cookie. This is the right one, and it works. So the output will be another cookies. And what if we were to remove this T? It still works. So TypeScript goes through these different kinds of logic and asserts that this is a cookie and not a headers. And then it will filter the array and return to us the cookies. And that is how you use the is keyword in Advanced Typescript. If you liked this video and if you learned something, you can save it or you can hit the like button. Thanks for watching and thanks for today.